I have seen a lot in my 42 years on the bench. I have watched people lie to my face, cry crocodile tears, and try every trick in the book to avoid doing what every citizen of this country is asked to do. I have had CEOs claim they were too busy. I have had lawyers claim conflicts of interest that did not exist. I have had a state senator send his assistant with a handwritten note asking to be excused. But I have never in all my decades wearing this robe had a man send his receptionist to my courthouse with a signed letter on monogrammed stationery explaining that his time was worth too much money to spend it sitting in a jury box. That changed on the morning of January 11th, 2024, at exactly 9:22 a.m., when Dr. Preston Hale, age 54, board-certified plastic surgeon and founder of the Hale Aesthetic Institute on the east side of Providence, was escorted into my courtroom by two U.S. Marshals for criminal contempt of court. You think you have heard stories about arrogant people getting humbled? Trust me, what happened to Dr. Preston Hale is going to make you want to stand up and applaud. Hit that subscribe button right now because this story is going to remind you that in America, nobody is above their duty. Let me take you back to how this whole thing started. The case file was unusual. Case number 2024-CT-0193, criminal contempt, failure to appear for jury service. The defendant was Dr. Preston Hale, owner and lead surgeon of a cosmetic surgery practice that generated, according to financial records subpoenaed during the contempt investigation, approximately $4.6 million in annual revenue. His personal income the previous year was $1.9 million. He lived in a $3.8 million home in Barrington, overlooking Narragansett Bay. He was, by every measure, a wealthy, successful, prominent man. And he had decided without ambiguity or apology that jury duty was beneath him. But before I get to what Dr. Hale did and what I did about it, I need to tell you about the trial he was supposed to sit on and the woman at the center of it, because that is what makes this story hit different. The trial was a civil case. A woman named Teresa Mancini, age 44, had filed a medical malpractice lawsuit against a hospital system. Teresa was a school cafeteria worker at Reservoir Avenue Elementary in Cranston. She made $13.80 an hour. She had worked there for 16 years, serving lunch to kids every day, learning their allergies by heart, sneaking extra fruit cups to the ones she knew did not get enough dinner at home. Her co-workers called her Mama T. She had 3 children, ages 12, 15, and 19. Her oldest, Anthony, was a sophomore at Rhode Island College on a partial scholarship, studying to be a nurse. Her youngest, Grace, had been diagnosed with scoliosis at age 9 and needed a spinal fusion surgery that Teresa's insurance only partially covered. The out-of-pocket cost was $14,000. Teresa had $1,200 in savings. She had taken out a loan from her credit union and was paying it back at $180 a month. 2 years earlier, Teresa had gone in for a routine gallbladder removal at a local hospital. Something went wrong during the procedure. She suffered a perforated bile duct that was not caught for 36 hours. She developed sepsis. She spent 11 days in the ICU. She nearly died. When she recovered, she had permanent digestive complications that required ongoing medication costing $380 a month. She could no longer stand for the full 6-hour lunch shift without severe abdominal pain. Her hours were cut. Her income dropped. She filed a lawsuit because she had no other option. She was not looking for a payday. She was looking for someone to cover the medical bills that were burying her family. Her case needed a jury. The court needed 12 citizens to sit and listen and decide whether this woman, this cafeteria worker, this mother of 3, deserved compensation for what had been done to her. That is what jury duty is. It is not an inconvenience. It is the foundation of the justice system. And Dr. Preston Hale could not be bothered. When Teresa Mancini came to the courthouse for her trial, she was wearing a dark blue dress she had borrowed from her sister because she did not own one that was suitable for court. Her shoes were flats, practical, scuffed at the toes, the kind a woman wears when her feet hurt from standing on a cafeteria tile floor all day. She carried a folder of medical records in a manila envelope she had labeled in neat handwriting. Her hands were folded in her lap. She sat with her back straight and her eyes forward. She did not look angry. She looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from 2 years of fighting a system that was supposed to help her while raising 3 kids and working through pain every single day. But she showed up. Every day, she showed up. She had dignity in every line of her face. If you have ever been let down by someone who was supposed to show up, if you have ever needed someone to just do the right thing and they could not be bothered, then please subscribe to this channel. We are a family here, and we believe that showing up matters. Join us now. Here is what Dr. Preston Hale did. He received his jury summons on November 28, 2023, for a service date of January 8, 2024. Standard summons. Every adult citizen gets them. It is not optional. It is not a suggestion. It is the law. On December 4th, Dr. Hale's office manager, a woman named Cheryl Fontaine, called the clerk's office and requested an exemption. The reason given was that Dr. Hale had surgical appointments that could not be rescheduled. My clerk, Dorothy, who has been with me for 19 years and runs that office like a Swiss watch, reviewed the request and denied it. Rhode Island law is clear. Elective cosmetic procedures are not grounds for exemption. Dorothy sent a written denial on December 6th, certified mail, signature required. Dr. Hale did not respond. He did not call. He did not file an appeal. He did not show up on January 8th. He did not show up on January 9th. On January 10th, Dorothy sent a final notice by courier to his office on Blackstone Boulevard. And this is where it gets infuriating. Dr. Hale sent the courier back with a letter. It was written on his practice's letterhead, cream-colored, monogrammed, the kind of stationery that costs $4 a sheet. The letter read, and I am quoting from the court record, "Dear Clerk, I appreciate the court's diligence, but I must respectfully decline. My schedule does not permit jury service at this time or any foreseeable time. My practice generates significant revenue for this community, and my patients depend on me. I trust the court can find 12 other citizens whose time is less valuable. Regards, Dr. Preston W. Hale, MD, FACS." Let me say that again. This doctor, wrote a letter to my court explaining that his time was more valuable than everyone else's, and that we should find 12 citizens whose time was worth less. He put it in writing, on monogram stationery, and signed it with his credentials. I read that letter 3 times. I showed it to Dorothy. She looked at me over her glasses and said one word, "Marshals." I signed the contempt order that afternoon. Drop a comment right now and tell me what you would have done. And if you believe that every citizen, no matter how rich, has the same civic duty, hit that like button. Because what happened next is what made this case perfect. On the morning of January 11th, 2 United States Marshals walked into Dr. Hale's office at 8:45 a.m., past the marble reception desk, past the framed magazine covers on the walls, past the waiting room where 3 women sat in designer athleisure waiting for consultations, and informed Dr. Hale that he was required to appear before me immediately on a charge of criminal contempt. His receptionist later told investigators that Dr. Hale's face turned the color of his office walls, which were, apparently, a shade called surgical white. When Dr. Hale walked into my courtroom 40 minutes later, he was still wearing his lab coat over a custom-tailored shirt, monogrammed cuffs, with a Tom Ford tie loosened at the neck. On his wrist was a Patek Philippe Calatrava, the rose gold model, at least $52,000. His shoes were Italian leather, the kind with the stitching so fine you can see it from the bench, easily $1,800. His belt had a Hermes buckle. He walked in like a man who had been interrupted from something important, not like a man who had been brought before a judge for breaking the law. He had called an attorney on the way over, a criminal defense lawyer from a firm on Westminster Street, who arrived 12 minutes after Hale did, slightly out of breath, carrying a leather briefcase and looking like he had been given about 4 minutes of preparation. Teresa Mancini was not in the courtroom that day. She did not know any of this was happening. Her trial had been delayed 3 days because they could not seat a full jury. 3 days. 3 days of Teresa Mancini taking unpaid time off work, arranging childcare, driving to the courthouse, and sitting in a hallway waiting. Because Dr. Preston Hale decided his time was more valuable than hers. Now here is where it gets interesting. Are you still with me? Because what happened next is something that millions of people have now watched, and it is, I believe, one of the most satisfying moments I have ever delivered from this bench. I read the contempt charge. I presented the evidence, the summons, the denial of exemption, the failure to appear on 3 consecutive days, and the letter. I read the letter aloud in open court, every word. When I got to the part about finding 12 citizens whose time is less valuable, I paused. I looked at Dr. Hale. He shifted in his chair. His attorney was writing something furiously on a legal pad. Then I gave Dr. Hale the opportunity to address the court. His attorney tried to speak first. Dr. Hale waved him off, stood up, adjusted his Tom Ford tie, and addressed me directly. He told me he meant no disrespect. He said his practice served hundreds of patients. He said some of his procedures were time-sensitive. I asked him what kind of procedures. He said facelifts, rhinoplasties, and body contouring. Elective cosmetic procedures. Not one of them was an emergency. He said his patients had paid deposits and expected punctuality. I told him that the court expected the same thing. Then he made the mistake that sealed everything. He looked at me, checked his Patek Philippe like he was calculating the billable minutes this was costing him, and said, "Judge, let me be candid. I earn over $8,000 a day. The juror stipend is what, $15? You are asking me to take a $8,000 loss to earn $15 sitting in a box listening to some woman's surgery complaint. With all due respect, that is not a reasonable use of my time. Some of us contribute more to society than others. That is just a fact." The courtroom went dead silent, that kind of quiet where you can hear the ventilation and someone 2 rows back shifting in their seat. My bailiff Carl, 6'4", former Marine, folded his arms. Dr. Hale's own attorney put his pen down and stared at the table. I felt my jaw tighten. I sat absolutely still. My father, God rest his soul, an Italian immigrant who drove a taxi and worked in a factory and opened a small grocery store on Federal Hill, used to tell me, "The law is not just about punishment. It is about teaching people to see each other." I thought about Teresa Mancini. I thought about her $13.80 an hour. I thought about Dr. Hale's $8,000 a day. And I thought about 12 empty chairs in a jury box. Tell me what you would do sitting in my chair right now. Your support keeps stories like this reaching people who need to hear them. If you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. And then something happened that Dr. Hale did not see coming. My clerk Dorothy handed me a folder. Inside was a printout from Dr. Hale's practice's own Instagram account, pulled that morning by the assistant AG's office. 14 posts in the last 6 months. Dr. Hale on a yacht in the Bahamas. Dr. Hale at a wine tasting in Napa. Dr. Hale courtside at a Celtics game. Dr. Hale teeing off at a golf tournament in Hilton Head. Every single post was during a weekday. Every single one was tagged with the day and location. This man, who was too busy to serve 1 week of jury duty, had taken no fewer than 14 personal days in 6 months for leisure. His schedule did not prevent jury service. His ego did. I displayed the screenshots on the courtroom monitor. Dr. Hale's face went from composure to confusion to a shade of red I have not seen outside a blood pressure chart. His attorney asked for a recess. I denied it. If you have stuck with me this long, you are incredible. Subscribe if you have not already. What comes next is the moment that made this case go viral. I folded my hands. I looked at Dr. Preston Hale and I spoke clearly and deliberately. Dr. Hale, you have been found in criminal contempt of this court. You ignored a lawful summons. You ignored a denial of exemption. You failed to appear for 3 consecutive days. And you sent my clerk a letter explaining that your time was more valuable than your fellow citizens. Let me address that directly. I am fining you $40,000. That amount is calculated at $8,000 per day for the 5 days of trial your absence helped delay. You told me you earn $8,000 a day. Now so does the court. Every penny of that fine will go to the Rhode Island Juror Assistance Fund, which provides stipend supplements and transportation assistance to citizens who serve jury duty despite financial hardship. The same citizens whose time you told me was less valuable than yours. His attorney stood. I was not finished. Furthermore, you will serve jury duty. Not the 1 week you were originally summoned for. You will serve on the next 4 jury pools to which you are called, whenever they occur, for however long they last. You will sit in that jury box and you will listen. You will listen to cases about people who make $13 an hour and cannot afford a lawyer. You will listen to witnesses who took unpaid days off work to testify. And you will participate in the system you dismissed as beneath you. Additionally, I am ordering you to perform 400 hours of community service at the Rhode Island Free Clinic on Broad Street. You will provide pro bono reconstructive consultations, not cosmetic procedures, reconstructive services for patients who have suffered disfiguring injuries, burns, or surgical complications and cannot afford care. You will use your skills to help people who could never afford to walk into your office on Blackstone Boulevard. And you will do it without your monogrammed lab coat. Dr. Hale, you told this court that some people contribute more to society than others. I want you to consider something. Teresa Mancini has served lunch to other people's children for 16 years. She memorizes their allergies. She gives extra fruit cups to kids who are hungry. She makes $13.80 an hour. And she showed up to this courthouse every day for 3 days, unpaid, because she believes in the system. She contributes, every single day. The question is not who contributes more, Dr. Hale. The question is who shows up when it counts, and you did not. The courtroom erupted. Applause from the gallery. The jury coordinator, a woman named Marge, who had worked in that office for 27 years, was crying at her desk. Dr. Hale's attorney was closing his briefcase. Dr. Hale himself stood motionless, his hand unconsciously touching his Patek Philippe, staring at the floor. The arrogance was gone. The monogrammed cuffs, the Italian shoes, the magazine cover confidence. All of it collapsed into a man standing in a courtroom, realizing that he had told a judge, on the record, that other human beings were worth less than he was. Smash that like button if you believe that civic duty does not come with an exemption for wealth. This story is not quite over. Dr. Preston Hale paid the $40,000 fine within 72 hours. He served on his first jury pool 6 weeks later, a personal injury case that lasted 9 days. According to the jury coordinator, he arrived on time every morning and did not check his phone once. He served on 3 more pools over the following year. He completed all 400 hours at the Rhode Island Free Clinic. The clinic's director told a local reporter that Dr. Hale performed 17 pro bono reconstructive consultations in his first 3 months, including one for a 12-year-old girl who had severe burn scarring from a house fire and whose family had been on a waiting list for 2 years. He did not publicize any of it. He did not post it on Instagram. His receptionist told a Providence Journal reporter that something had changed in him, but she could not quite say what. Teresa Mancini's trial finally took place in February 2024, with a full jury seated. The jury deliberated for 6 hours and awarded her $385,000 in damages, enough to cover every medical bill, every dollar of lost wages, and her daughter Grace's spinal surgery. When the verdict was read, Teresa put her face in her hands and wept. Her son, Anthony, the nursing student, was sitting behind her. He put his hand on her shoulder and did not let go. I think about that case more than people might expect. Not because of the fine, not because of the Instagram posts. I think about it because of what jury duty actually is. It is the one time the system asks ordinary citizens to be the system. Not lawyers, not judges, not politicians. Regular people, sitting in a box, listening, deciding. It is the most democratic thing we do in this country besides voting. And when a man who earns $8,000 a day decides he is too important for it, he is not just skipping an obligation. He is telling every cafeteria worker, every bus driver, every teacher, every single parent who rearranges their life to show up that their participation does not matter. And it does. It matters more than anything. My father used to tell me, the law is not just about punishment. It is about teaching people to see each other. I hope Dr. Hale saw something during those jury pools. I hope he saw the Teresa Mancinis of the world. I hope he understood, even a little, that a courtroom is the one room where $8,000 a day and $13.80 an hour sit in the same chairs, and carry the same weight. That is the promise of this system, and it is a promise worth keeping. To anyone watching who has ever been tempted to dodge jury duty, to throw that summons in the trash, to call in a favor, I understand. It is inconvenient. It is time-consuming. It does not pay well. But somewhere out there is a Teresa Mancini who needs 12 strangers to show up and listen. Be one of those strangers. It might be the most important thing you ever do. To anyone who has ever sat in that jury box, who has ever given up a week of work and wages to participate in justice, thank you. You are the system. Without you, none of this works. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you believe in real justice, do 3 things for me. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story like this. Leave a comment and tell me about a time you served jury duty, or a time the system worked for you or someone you love. And watch the next video, where a real estate billionaire tries to demolish a veteran's home, and the veteran's secret brings the entire courtroom to its knees. That one will stay with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that justice is not just a word, it is a promise. And I keep my promises.